Hello everyone. In the research methodology sessions, in previous sessions, deals about research meaning and definition, characteristics of the research, pure research and applied research, and the steps in research process. After that, I discussing about the research design. Now I am going to explaining about the sources of data. Once the researcher formulate the problem, the researcher decide the types of data needed for the study because the research methodology, especially the social science research, depends upon the data. So the researcher should select the data very carefully. The sources of data are broadly classified into two headings, namely primary data and secondary data. The primary data are primary sources. The primary sources are the original sources from which the researchers directly collects the data that have been previously not collected. That is collection of data directly by the researcher from the respondents. For example, suppose the researcher collect the data related to brand preference of the two-wheeler. At the time, the researcher directly meet the respondents and gather the information about the two-wheeler riders, containing information about the type of two-wheeler used, reason for purchasing, etc. So the primary data are considered as the first-hand information collected through various methods, namely interview methods, observation method, interview mailing method, questionnaire methods. The primary data are more accurate. However, the primary data require a huge amount of money and it consume more time. The clerical work involved in the primary data is also high. The secondary data. The secondary data contain the data which have been collected and compiled by some other person for other purpose. The secondary sources consist of readily available data that are already compiled statistical statement and report, whose data may be used by the researcher for their studies. For example, census report, annual report, and financial statement of the companies, statistical statements, reports of the government department, annual report, currency and finance published by the Reserve Bank of India. So these are the information about the secondary data. The secondary sources consist not only the published data, but also it contains unpublished records, namely the various records and register maintained by the firms and organization, that is accounting and financial record, personal record, register of the members, minutes of the meeting, inventory records, etc. So the secondary data are available in ready-made format. So the researcher spent a limited time. The cost involved for collecting the secondary data is also very low. The clerical work involved in the secondary data is also very limited. But the accuracy of the data is always questionable. The the originality of the data is also not a question, always a questionable one. The main difference between the primary data and secondary data is the primary data are collected by the researcher by himself for the first time. Secondary data means the researcher used the already collected data. The primary data is more accurate, but the secondary data, the accuracy is always questionable one. The secondary data is economical and consume low time. However, the primary data requires huge amount of money as well as time consuming process. In the secondary data is ready-made format, the clerical work involved in secondary data is very low. But in the case of primary data, it involves huge data collection and complications work. So the clerical work is very high. These are the main differences between the primary data and secondary data. Thank